Hello and welcome everyone. It's time for another, of course, exciting episode of IT Career in Australia channel. And tonight's topic is what does an enterprise architect do and how to become one? So join us for a panel discussion on this role. So our speakers will share their career journeys and typical responsibilities, providing some in-depth understanding of what it means to ensure an organizational IT strategy is aligned with the business goals. So this conversation will explore various paths to becoming enterprise architect, address their daily challenges and decisions they face, and hopefully offer some valuable advice for those who considering or transitioning into this role right now. So this session aims to demystify the role of enterprise architect and clarify some skills and qualities. So make sure to have some questions ready. Also, of course, please don't forget to introduce yourselves in the comments. Let us know what you do. And again, join our conversations with your questions or, at least say hi. If you're saying hi, at least we know you're here and you're watching. So I'm Jana Martins, if you forgot. So I'm working in enterprise architecture consultancy myself as well. So this topic is quite relevant for me this time. And just before I'll pass it over to our speakers to introduce themselves, just want to quickly remind you the usual things. Yes. So you might be watching us on YouTube or LinkedIn. So if you're watching us on LinkedIn, please make sure to subscribe to YouTube channel. Obviously, if you're watching us on YouTube, make sure to find me on LinkedIn. You can also join my meetup group that's called IT Career in Australia as well. I do face-to-face events there. Actually, next face-to-face event will be in Melbourne on the 10th of August. So make sure to join the group to get the notifications. And as always, I do encourage you to use this stream not only to learn some new information, but to network with people in the industry. And you can easily network in the comments and obviously network with our speakers as well. James is here saying hi. Thank you. Moshmi is here. Thank you. Thank you. Oh, I love YouTube. YouTube names. Think a bit, Will. Please share your name so we know your name in the comments. And guys, I see you watching. Please make sure to say hi in the comments. So that's enough of me. Let's get to our speakers to introduce themselves. We'll start with Jack, please.
Hello, everyone. My name is Jack. I'm a contracted enterprise architect currently working at Telstra, as well as a few other little clients. And on the side, I'm the interim CTO for a couple of small startups still in stealth mode.
I love how you working for Telstra and and we get like the worst internet connection. Is it? I mean, the irony. But we can hear you. That's the main thing, Jack. So that's
Perfect.
that's the main thing. Reynaldo, over to you, please.
Yep. Hi, everybody. Hope all is well. So I'm Reynaldo Atienza. I'm a enterprise architect at the moment with the Department of Education, and so I've been an enterprise architect for different organizations and industries as well. So you will learn more about me later on. Thank you.
Thank you, and over to Alex, please.
Hi everyone, Alex Kurcubic. I'm an enterprise architect with a large government agency in New South Wales, Transport for New South Wales. I've mostly been an architect in the government space, but I've also been through the startup journey with a software development company as well.
Perfect. Thank you, guys. So quite a few people joining us saying hi. Samoha here, Harry is here, Shanzad here. If I'm pronouncing your names incorrectly, please forgive me. So I guess the first question I always ask is a bit of a, personal story. So if you can share with us, your journey into becoming enterprise architect, maybe something inspired you to pursue this role, or maybe, you went to primary school and you decided, okay, that's it. I'm gonna be enterprise architect when I grow up. So I guess would love to hear your journey and how you made this transition. Maybe we'll start with Alex this time, please.
Yeah, so I wasn't always in the IT space. I did half of my career as a separate profession completely, and I decided to leave that completely behind. And I was a police officer, by the way, so totally different. And then I left and I decided to transition to something else, and I chose IT. But the story behind it is I always was a bit of a computer gamer. So I enjoyed computer games, and I used to build my own computers. So I kind of had that bit of IT knowledge along that way. And then that kind of led me when I was deciding on a new career. I actually came back to work as a business analyst, and then followed that bouncing ball along till my current role as an enterprise architect.
Here we go. From police officer to enterprise architect. Guys, if you're there listening and you think that, it's too late for you to transition to enterprise architect, maybe not. Maybe, maybe it's always the way. Reynaldo, what about you? How did your journey went?
Yeah, thanks, Yana. My journey, I think every great journey begins with a single step. And I think mine is no different at all. My first role is basically I was a software engineer in IBM and Computer Sciences Corporation. So I think for me, it's just really learning how to lay and all the bricks and that foundation as a software engineer, learning the technical skills during that time. And then from then, I gradually moved to a kind of solution designer or solution architect from different organizations, Victorian government and Telstra Corporation, as I mentioned. And then from then, reaching to constructing a kind of skyscrapers, or we're now as an enterprise architect leading significant digital transformation of projects of different non-for-profit organizations before, like Salvation Army, Heart Foundation, telecommunication industry ombudsman, and Telstra, and basically looking at the enterprise architecture frameworks, engage stakeholders, and implement any strategic IT plan. So I think that's really what happened to me. But really, I have that passion in technology since I was young. So I love solving complex problems, and I think what really drive is impact me to drive to become an enterprise architect is because of I want to enhance the business outcomes of the business. So I think that's all about it. Thank you, Yana.
Thank you. So Jack, what about you? So we have non-technical and technical background. So what about you?
My journey, not too dissimilar to Reynaldo, but probably what I would say is the impact thing, very, very, very true. I came up through help desks. I was a help desk technician, a service desk technician for schools, for on the phones. I was a software manager on the phones for a long time, providing support to people, not to tech. And through doing it, I realized that I couldn't just help the people. At some point, I'd have to learn a bit about and help the tech as well. And so I did more and more of that. And eventually I was a manager, and then I was a platform owner. And eventually I found myself going, I don't think I can solve this problem just by running things. I think I need to design them better. And so that got me into a solution designer, and then eventually into enterprise architecture, where I am today.
Makes sense. Moshmi saying, amazing, Alex, quite a journey. Yes, so definitely Alex has a bit of a different journey and we probably want to learn a bit more as well. But okay, so I guess Reynaldo and Jack, you have a little bit like kind of similar journey, and Alex, you moved from the non-technical background. But do you think is there such a thing as a typical career path for someone aspiring to become enterprise architect? Like, what steps can people take to prepare? Is it usually that sort of path from the technical role into enterprise architecture, or we can see more and more that people moving from the sort of more business background? Jack, maybe we'll start with you on this one first. Like, yeah, what do you think? Is there such a thing as a typical career path to enterprise architecture?
I think there probably was a time where having a technical background was probably fair to be considered the typical background coming into architecture, especially enterprise architecture. more and more so these days, since the rise of product as a way of thinking about how we build tech, we're starting to see more and more architects that are coming from a less hardcore writing code background, and maybe from a background of we've managed a product, or I've managed a service, or maybe even people who've been working heavily with digital assets. These are the sorts of people who also are finding more and more they can find a pathway in.
Yeah, definitely. Alex, over to you. Like, I guess reflecting on your journey as well, what do you think? What's a typical career path?
And I don't fit that mold, but I totally agree with Jack. Traditionally, that software engineering, software development, that sort of had a linear progression path to from that to managing a team, and then solution architecture, and eventually enterprise or domain architecture, and then enterprise architecture. But the way I did it was more from a business space. So starting off as a business analyst, gathering requirements, and you eventually end up dabbling in a bit of solution design doing that. And then I stepped up from that and went into the innovation space. So as an innovation officer, we were doing proof of concepts for technology. So whether we're implementing body-worn video or tablets, out in the field, or the IoT, all different, new technologies in the organization. And again, when you're documenting all that, you end up playing around with the solution architecture. And so that led me into becoming a solution architect. And it was just a transfer. And because you're in a large government organization and there's a big IT department, you can transition across the different teams. So I might have been on a project, then I went into the innovation, the strategy and technology and planning unit, and then moving to the enterprise architecture space as a solution architect. And so there's plenty of way to move around. And then after the solution architect, I did that for quite a few years, and you start getting more involved in the business and dealing with the stakeholders, and then that leads you to not just doing a particular solution, but doing strategies for the organization and looking across all the platforms rather than the single platform, and end up as an enterprise architect after all that. So there is ways that you can do that from a non-software development background. It definitely helps, but it's not impossible to do it without that software knowledge.
Yeah. And do you think that domain knowledge really help you because you've been, I don't know, and in the government before and knew how it works? Do you think that help you to kind of, move horizontally and develop your different skills?
I was very lucky in that I was a business SME to start off with, because I ended up being an architect in the police as well. Like, I joined their IT department. And so I had all that expert knowledge about the business, which really sort of gave me a head start. But for an architect coming into a new business, and we'll probably touch on it later too, but one of the key things you can pick up is getting to know the business very well, because that's going to help you immensely.
Yeah, definitely. Reynaldo, what about you? What do you think? Is there such a thing? Do you think your career was typical pathway to enterprise architecture?
I don't think so, to be honest. I can say I was an accidental architect or something. When I say accidental, because I remember I thought I'll just be a software engineer, a developer. But I think it transitioned me as a solution designer or a solution architect, because one of our solution architects during that time left the company when he was in IBM, and he left. And I was kind of the team lead for developer. So from then, I actually transitioned to a solution designer, solution architect. And same thing as well, when I transitioned to an enterprise architect, it's mostly that because the team that I was moving, it's kind of because I was reporting to the chief architect, and they were thinking that I think it's better if I move into the enterprise architect position. So, but I think it's good in a way, because as a software engineer, I developed a very broad technical foundation, and that helped me. But when you become an enterprise architect, you need to have a strategic thinking. You need to enhance your strategic thinking, because it's very important to look at how the IT aligns with business goals and how the technology can drive the business value and all that. And that's really, I think, probably what happened to me. So, but I'm kind of hands-on architect, so I can talk on a different language. I can go to to a penthouse and going down to the ground floor where I can talk to the developers because I'm very techie, and I can go up to the executives where I can talk business. So I think that's probably the level where I started as a bottom and then go up as like an elevator. I think that's what I can say. Thank you, Yana.
Thank you. Thank you, guys. So, a few people saying, yeah, quite impressive journey. Jack's history is similar to mine. Here we go. So, let's try to demystify a little bit the role of enterprise architect. You already mentioned, a few responsibilities and stuff, but if you would describe the day in life of enterprise architect, what would you describe as the sort of primary responsibilities for the enterprise architect? Reynaldo, we'll start with you this time, please.
The primary responsibilities of an enterprise architect. I think the number one straight away, I think I mentioned a while ago, is that an enterprise architect need to have that strategic planning. So I think we need to be responsible on the overall IT architecture of that entire organization and make sure it aligns to all the business goals and strategies. So, and then usually I do, we set up an architectural governance. So you need to establish these because you need to have specific architectural principles and governance to basically say, this is for all the IT projects, these are the compliance and regulatory requirements or industry best practices that we need to do. And, you need to have a kind of responsibility to make sure that you have a long-term vision. And I think it's very important to have that stakeholder management as well. That talk to the business leaders and really understand what they really need. And make sure that you understand and alignment on that specific IT strategies. So it's like we're really acting as a bridge between business and IT. So, and at the end, I think it's probably, I can say the last one is the risk management and optimization. So we need to identify the specific risk and trying to mitigating all those risks associated with any architectural decisions we've made is a very crucial as well. Thank you.
Jack, anything to kind of add to this list? What does your day look like? Or is it similar to Reynaldo?
I think it's a great list. I was just thinking about what percentage of my time I spend doing those different things. I think I spend about 20% of my time personally still working on hands-on tech stuff. Not probably these days because I have to, but these days because it helps to have an awareness of it and keep across it and how it works. I probably spend about 40% of my time dealing with the things that are in my patch. So that's the solutions or the systems that fit under my area that I own in terms of enterprise architecture. So for me, it's all the risk and compliance and legal things because that's the team I'm currently assigned to. And then the other 40% of my time I spend working on those larger, chunkier and pure enterprise architecture things, I would say. And that's coming up with patterns and frameworks and systems that the rest of the business can roll out. It's also just sitting down with my other fellow enterprise architects in the business and understanding what their requirements are and what's their budget for the next year. And so, yeah, it's about 20% keeping myself sharp, 40% keeping the things that I own right here and right now sharp and running, and 40% making sure that broadly everything we're doing is aligned with the picture and the roadmap and we're all going in the same direction.
Makes sense. Alex, over to you. Is your day similar to this?
or something different? I love Reynaldo's analogy of the elevator. I feel like I'm on that elevator all day long because I've got it's quite an interesting role. I'm an enterprise architect, but I belong in a platforms management team. So we look after a whole bunch of platforms. And then I ride that elevator. So I might be 1 minute creating a ticket to create a service account or something, to support a project or creating an environment for them or spinning up a VM. And then, second half of my day, I'll be preparing an architecture pack to go to the architecture review board for a decision. So that's like kind of those middle levels. And then, up the top of at the penthouse, I'd be looking at working with a few stakeholders across the organisation. We're looking at AI governance and cyber guardrails at the moment. So looking at like a strategic piece that'll be binding across the whole organisation. So my day's never boring because it's quite varied in that space.
Sounds like, it's a bit of a variety there with that elevator example that you can go to different levels. And my next question, kind of similar, I guess you already have answered that, but I think how important those soft skills for enterprise architect compare the technical expertise? So, you're mentioning you still need to go down elevator, to some technical stuff and talk with developers. How technical enterprise architect should be. So I don't know, what's kind of your opinion? And we might start with Jack this time.
Sure. So I think sort of to give the counterpoint to what we said before, having a technical foundation to your skills, it helps. But whether or not you will use those technical skills every day as an enterprise architect, I doubt it. You will spend most of your time working with stakeholders in the business to understand their requirements. But you'll also be spending an equal amount of time working with engineers trying to understand their requirements or to argue with them whether or not their requirements are exactly what they actually need, because you've now got visibility over 3 or 4 platforms. So it's not just about this is the way to go, this is the answer to the solution. You spend a lot of time negotiating with stakeholders, negotiating with engineers, or even negotiating with your fellow architects. These are all soft skills. These all need you to build a network, to build credibility, and to build trust. So very, very important, I think.
Yep. Alex, soft skills winning in this role.
Yeah, they're very important. I attend the architecture review boards quite a lot, and to present whatever it is, a pattern, a framework, a solution, or whatever for a decision, and you have to have that communication, be able to, all those soft skills and communication to be able to articulate the recommendations properly and to also answer the questions. And often there's resistance, there's a bit of pushback, there's arguments. So you need to have that, you need to articulate yourself well and what you're trying to deliver. The other important one is leadership, being and showing a bit of initiative and pushing your initiatives through, or your strategy or whatever, and convincing stakeholders. That's very important as well. And no one's going to, it's a senior role, so no one's going to spoon feed you every day as what you need to do. You need to actually pick up the ball and run with it. So that's very important as well.
Yeah, there's definitely a number of skills. Reynaldo, something to add to the important skills and software's technical?
Yes, thank you. Yeah, I mean, soft skills are very important if you want to be an enterprise architect. Initially, I thought it's not, but it's very important. I think for an enterprise architect, I think you need to be a translator. What I mean of translator, that you can speak both business and technology. So just as a translator, you need to ensure that, people from different cultures that you're talking to understand each other. You make sure that the technical guys and the business, you ensure that both of them, both sides of that organization are actually talking on a different language, and making sure those two groups are on the same page and the same book as well. So, and I think that's very, very crucial. I've experienced a lot of miscommunication, and that's why I said enterprise architect as a translator. And I can say as well, the leadership and influence is also very important. So I can say that the leadership and influence is like, I felt like I'm just a conductor of an orchestra. So the conductor, doesn't play the instruments, but guides the musician to play harmony. Yeah. So I guide the teams to ensure that all those different efforts of those different departments are aligned for our strategic vision. So we're not only a translator, but also we're a conductor. So having a collaboration and teamwork is very important. And you know that collaboration and teamwork is like having a sports team. And winning the game requires teamwork and collaboration. So you need to ensure that the team members work together toward, finishing the line and the common goal. And I think these are the things. And I think the one most important part is having that emotional intelligence. When I say emotional intelligence, I think of it as a skilled therapist. So if you're a therapist, you must understand and empathize with your clients, help them, even the people, the technical guys, the business, and must understand, empathize your colleagues effectively on how you're going to support them and do their work properly as well. So I think that's what I can say. Thank you.
Yeah,
Diana.
Definitely quite a few soft skills involved there. And I like that you mentioned the same page of the same book, because sometimes you feel like on the same page with people, but you actually just feel that you're on the same page, but you're in a completely different book. So I think that's something to be aware of. There's a few comments. I was just want to quickly acknowledge some more. Like Jay Johnny is aspiring. I started my journey as well as a system engineer. I can relate myself and his task. Also, Alex into tech from police is impressive as well. And when you're saying, hi, everyone, I really appreciate the insights all these professions are providing to us on this show. Thank you, Manuel. Yes, a great insight, sharing helpful information for us. We are junior in this domain, and the ideas and knowledge is awesome. Here you go. Thank you, guys, for being here. So, the next question I have, and guys, who's still watching us, and or even if you're watching replay, feel free to drop some questions in the comments. So we're happy to take some questions from the audience. So as long as you stay on the topic, yes, enterprise architecture topic. So my next question is, the most common challenges of, an enterprise architects face in their day-to-day responsibility, and maybe just give your personal opinion. Yeah. Don't talk in general. That's, the hard part of the being enterprise architect. Well, you personally, like, maybe don't really like as much, or find it a bit like, I have to do it again. Alex, maybe we'll start with you. What do you think the biggest challenge kind of for you in this role?
As I mentioned before, as an enterprise architect, you have to make recommendations, whether you're recommending a platform or a strategy or a product or a solution. That's always going to upset someone, because however good your recommendation is and the justifications behind it, there's always people in the business that might be used to another solution or another platform or another way of doing things, and it involves change. And whenever there's change that's triggered, there's always going to be some resistance. So you need to know how to deal with that resistance, whether you sell them the benefits or highlight the risks, or work with them to incorporate their concerns or address their concerns in some way. So that's probably one of the biggest challenges of an architect, the pushback and the resistance you get, and how to overcome that. So that's where those soft skills come into play as well. The other sort of challenge that I think is common is, as an enterprise architect, you get stuck in the weeds. You end up, like I do sometimes, you end up as a support channel. And if you've helped someone out, or you help a few people out, they've always got your name, and they keep coming back to you and your day can be totally lost if you're not careful in operational issues, rather than on the bigger picture stuff that you're meant to be working on. So that's another challenge. And sometimes that other stuff's fun, but it's very time consuming as well. So you got to prioritize your workload.
Yes, yeah, prioritization. Don't we all like that? You like that task. Jack, over to you. What do you find, challenging?
I really struggle with the idea of architecture when. I think there's, in any solution, any proof of concept, any pilot you build, there is always an opportunity for you to do more architecture. You can do more design, you can do more diagram, you can do more of the network flows in a nice table. But at what point are you doing too much architecture and not enough building? Or what point does a build not need to be designed? When can it just be experimental? I struggle with this a lot, especially in the innovation space, and especially in services the business hasn't decided if it wants to acquire yet. It's just taste testing them to see if it will later. And a lot of spaces like that where there's ambiguity, I often struggle with do we need as much architecture as we have? Do we maybe need a little less? Or also from us as architects, what tools and what frameworks can we give people who don't understand architecture? So at that level, they can still make some smart decisions, can still build their things in good, repeatable ways without needing a full design or one of us to spend an hour with them.
Yeah, makes sense. Reynaldo, over to you. Is the challenges similar or something different?
Yeah. I think it's most similar, but I think the main challenges for me, I think from my experience, is basically, I think I can say it's like I'm always trying to adjust, the sales, like, I'm trying to sail the ship and to match the changing wind directions. There's a lot of different changes on the requirements. So sometimes there's the business will change their mind or this, and then just like a sailor that I think you constantly monitor and adjust the sails to keep the ship on course, because a lot of changes, like even though you're already in the middle of designing or developing something already, and then suddenly there's a change of course. Even politically, they're going to say, we don't have a budget already, or this and that, or the schedule, as what Jack is saying, is, and all that. So I think that for me is one of the challenges. So you have to go to the tide, or how you're going to influence that tide so that you can make sure the shifting business goals is kind of, you're always into it. That's what I can say. Yep. Thank you.
Yeah, definitely. We have quite a few questions coming up. So Utkarsh has quite a specific question. So Alex have an answer for him by the look of it. So I have attended RBs, and I also worked at TPM, where I contributed to SaaS streamlining and Cloud Edge and streamlining. What should I do next to become enterprise architect? Alex, did you want to?
Yeah, I was just going to say, because I saw the next question as well from Chris, and it's kind of related. As I see EA as something which only
I see it as something which only applies to a large organization. Yeah, what do you think is the minimum size of the organization?
The two questions are kind of related, because firstly for Utkarsh, to do next is the way I did it was, if you're in the IT team at the moment and you're doing that solution architecture, try to find the unit in your organization that looks after strategy, enterprise architecture, or governance, or business architecture. Usually there's a business unit and it's usually removed from the actual IT development teams. So if you can get a foothold into there, the enterprise architect role would come naturally. So that's one way to do it. And for Chris's question, it doesn't have to be a large organization. Even if it's a small one, you can still do EA work in a small organization by looking at the bigger picture of it. So not just sort of you're implementing one software package, but then have a look at all the market space for that type of software, and then come up with a recommendation. So immediately you're sort of elevating from that, implementing a specific software product, to looking at that whole market space for that genre of product, and making an analysis and seeing what will fit your organization. So yeah, you can do EA work in a smaller organization. That's I know it doesn't there's more opportunities in a larger organization, definitely, and they've got those dedicated teams that are focused on enterprise architecture, but you can always practice enterprise architecture regardless of the size of the organization.
Makes sense. Jack, anything to add? Yeah.
No, I love that. I think that's very true. An enterprise architect as a role, there might not be one in a small org, but as a capacity, as a capability that org needs to and can use, there's always room for a little bit somewhere. In terms of a practical next step, yep, absolutely. If you can get a foothold into an architecture team, do it. If you can't, I highly recommend you start owning things. So if you can take on the ownership of a platform, the ownership of a service, and you can own its design, its future, its roadmap, you are then starting to get into a world where you are a solution architect. And then if you're thinking about how the thing that you own interacts with the things outside of it, now you're almost in enterprise architecture. So being a solution owner or a solution designer can be a really good stepping stone as well.
Makes sense. Reynaldo, anything to add to this, or did we answer the questions, I guess?
Yeah, I think I can add, because I've been to an organization really small, about 250 or I don't know 400 employees, and I think that the enterprise I did an enterprise architect, but I was wearing a lot of hats, not only enterprise architect, solution architect, and application architect, and all that. So you actually need to own it, and then try to put in what should be the digital transformation of these, what's the target state, and all that. I think my advice here, it's really, it doesn't matter small, medium, large. You still need to have an enterprise architect, for the reason that it will improve your operational efficiency, and try to find how you're gonna the cost to be lower, reduces redundancy or whatever. So it's kind of finding an improvement for the company. How on how can you deliver all these improvement and outcomes for the company. So I think that's what I need to add there. Thank you.
Would this role just called differently? Like what would be, in the small organization, if let's say there's no enterprise architect as such, who's doing the enterprise architecture in the small organization usually?
So
the company technologist, you can just simply be a technologist and or have an interest in technology and create something, create an artifact or a solution options paper or design or anything, or a strategy or a pathway or something, and provide that up to management and see what they think. And there you go, you're an enterprise architect.
Guess it would be maybe head of engineering in a small organization or someone.
Yeah, it can even be a team lead. It can be the CTO. It can be the chief product officer. It can really be anyone who's in a position where they've got a level of visibility and a level of ability to make decisions.
Yeah. So here you go. So don't need to be in a big organization. So just think about the responsibilities and the pathway. And I guess on this topic also, just a quick question to all of you. What's if you really, I guess, quickly answer that question, what do you think the main difference, and you also answer it in a way, but what's the main difference between solution architect and enterprise architect? If you would, kind of describe it and have one point. Jack, what do you think?
I mean, for me, it usually means owning more than a solution, more than a handful of solutions. So a solution architect might own one, they might own up to 3 or 4 or 5, but they won't normally consider the integrations between those solutions. The moment you're at a place where you're owning multiple solutions or an entire domain worth of solutions and how they integrate with each other, but also with the wider business, then you're starting to play in, some would call that still domain architecture, but in my experience, that's still pretty close to what we do in enterprise.
Reynaldo, that's how do you see the difference when you move from solution to kind of enterprise?
Yeah, I think it's really a big difference the way I see it, because my analogy here, the enterprise architect is a city planner, a master city planner, looking at the perspective of where is the different infrastructure, where are we going to put the train, the roads, and all that. While a solution architect is an individual building architect, or building a one-story house or a double-story house. So that's a solution architect for me. So enterprise architect is looking at the whole kind of the whole city. If you want to build the whole modern city, how are you going to build that? What you talk to the different businesses, right? And what do you want it? And then you're kind of helping them to build out where is that need to be located, the roads, the infrastructure, the train, and everything. That's the enterprise architecture. And then so you're basically a master city planner, while a solution architect is really a building architect that oversees the design and construction of the specific building. Okay, so I think that's the way I gonna describe it in analogy form. So thank you.
Yeah, and I think we have a similar question here. Maybe Alex, you can kind of continue and take this one. I'm a contract solution architect. How I can move up the ladder to perform enterprise architectural job, as I don't get the luxury of being permanent employee to exercise which my role within the organization. Any
Yeah,
advice?
I think, well, probably a good thing is to do an initiative on the side that's related to enterprise architecture. So whatever role you're doing now, just try and pick up something that you know is a pain point in that company or that organization and try to solve it in terms of solution options and make some recommendation as to what the company strategy should be in terms of solving that problem, just as an example. And that way, I think you'll come under notice and it'll probably give you a lot more opportunity. So anyone can really do that. Take a bit extra on and try and shine from the rest. Yeah.
Anyone want to add anything for Think a Bit, Will?
And just the previous conversation about the difference between solution and I'll give you a real world example. Sort of for solution architecture, I might be looking at the Power BI or the whole analytics and visualization space. So I might be looking how to implement Power BI and the connectivity patterns and how to where the gateway sits to get to a data source and do all that design. But from an enterprise architecture perspective, I might be looking at the whole visualization strategy and across all the different tool sets that are available in the market, and then nominate, okay, these are strategic tools with the highest capability set. We should use those, but there's also, if there's some niche areas of use cases, well, I recommend these tactical tools and that kind of thing. You can see it's like a total step up.
Yeah, and here's a quick question. I think we kind of touched it on a bit. Does the enterprise architect also take care of the data?
Yeah, you could touch any domain. You could, like I just mentioned, that visualization and the analytics space, or you could, and sometimes there's roles too, like there's specific data architect roles, or specific, network architect, data architect. There's a generic domain architect where you could specialize across different, but as an EA, you could be assigned to work on a data project. Like I was looking at Databricks in Azure, for example, just as a, and I've got no idea about data, but you're assigned that. And that the question here, how much is industry domain knowledge needed to become an enterprise architect from Summerhand? I might not be an expert and I'm not an expert in a lot of those fields, but one of the key tricks is to know who is and to pick their brains. And it's amazing how much you'll learn from the actual industry domain experts. So if you've got a good network in your organization and outside as well of those industry experts, you'll be surprised how quick they'll rub off on you and you'll pick up that knowledge really quick. So even though you don't have the industry domain knowledge, find out quickly who does and get them to help.
Yeah, coming back to those, communication skills, I guess, and the soft skills. We'll just move on to different questions. I guess, we have quite a few questions coming up and only 15 minutes left. Louise is asking, how can you be confident in your dealings or recommendation when you have not been working in the area which the subject matter expertise spend every day on?
Yeah, just like, sorry to cut in again, but exactly what I just said. There's so many SMEs in your organization that work downstairs in the server room, in the network department, in the data science space. Once you build those contacts and you enlist them to help and get them to review your documentation. So you might have no idea, but you do a starting point and get them to review it or interview them. So just as a business analyst would sit down with them, get some info from them, articulate that and get them to review it. And you're like coordinating all the SMEs to put together a strategy, an artifact, the solution options, whatever the case is.
Reynaldo, do you want to add anything to this?
I think what I'm going to add is basically, if you probably need to understand some kind of architectural frameworks like TOGAF, if you're a solution architect moving into that realm, TOGAF, Satman framework. And at the same time, if you really you have to do as part of an enterprise architect, you really need to do your own research. You need to do some readings about new technologies, about AI. You have to educate yourself. There's a lot of courses, and you can look at it and just understand the structure and how understand how it works and all that. And then there's some people can help you as well. But usually as an enterprise, you have to build up those different technologies, in data, in security, in network. In the more tools, the more kind of all things, applications, program, everything. It's a broad. Enterprise architect is broad. Solution architect, I can say it's kind of specific. There's some specific solution architect, Microsoft 365, for example. But an enterprise architect, you kind of need to know data and any other types of technology, even the new technologies coming in now. It's AI, blockchain technology. What are the different use cases now in these companies for payments and all that? You need to understand that now, because these are the new future now. That these are the ones that will be in the future. But again, you need to know all of that as an enterprise architect.
Yeah, sounds like a lot, a lot to be aware of. I'm just jumping to next question, just so we can, answer more questions. Here you go. You mentioned about TOGAF already. What courses like TOGAF or some strategy planning would you recommend to qualify for your role? Do you have any specific recommendations?
I find it really hard to find specific architecture courses. It's always been lacking in the industry. There is like TOGAF, for example, and there's COBIT and a few other little things. Actually, I think I found one, an introduction to solution architecture, but it was really high level. But all I can recommend is that don't just focus in on trying to find an enterprise architecture course or any architecture course. Go over a few different domains. Go project management. Look at some of the security courses. Look at some of the service management courses. Get all the basics done. Have a look at some of the cloud courses, and different product courses, whether it's in the Azure space or the Google, or even products, the low-code platform space like Power Platform or Salesforce, ServiceNow. It gives you that whole breadth of knowledge. And all that will contribute to your skills and assist you in being an architect. Yeah. So,
Jack,
I'd almost go I'd go almost a step further on the advice, which is I would avoid frameworks like TOGAF. I'd avoid frameworks like Archimate at first. I think they are something they're really, really good to tie your enterprise architecture knowledge together at a later point. And you should get your business to pay for them. But realistically, you can be an enterprise architect without that framework, as long as you've got the experience, the know-how, and the network. So focus on those things first.
Yep, the actual experience. So one more question here from Shui. I'm a TOGAF 10 certified practitioner. Here you go. I was a system software application architect, but not an enterprise architect. How can I get on AA job? Do I need to know the AA tools, Linux, Archimate? So I think it's kind of repeating a bit, but I guess if and we're kind of coming closer to the end of the stream anyway. It would be really good, guys, that we kind of like summarize what we talk about today. And if you give like your sort of top advice of what would you recommend to someone who want to move to enterprise architectural, with summarizing everything we mentioned, what would be like your absolutely kind of top advice? Maybe Jack will start with you.
Yeah. Get used to running at 2 speeds. Keep your technical skills sharp. And whatever you're interested in or passionate about, research, look it up, get your hands on it, use it. At the same time, also, if you've got experts in your business, you must slow down and listen to them. You must trust them. You must work with your stakeholders. You have to build that credibility with them over time so they trust you and your technical skills that you've put so much work into building.
100%. Reynaldo, how would you summarize your top advice?
Yeah, I think it would be good to gain an enterprise level experience. I think that's the number one. I think for me, I learned more on the enterprise architecture by learning on the experience and mentoring by the chief architect as well. So I got a mentor as well who mentored me. This is how you be gonna, set up, for example, a whole architecture for a whole, big company. And that's where, and he's a CIO as well. And I got that very good mentorship. So I can say find a good mentor, probably. That's the number one. Second is, develop your business acumen, learning about the business processes. It's not only, the technology, but the business. When I say business, the business processes, you must understand the financial management, the organizational strategy. These are pretty, the knowledge is very crucial for aligning. So you need to understand all this intricacy. And I think it's very important as well to have a network. Yeah, building your network, and that's where I actually develop more of it, because I go to Gartner conferences, I go to different conferences, I talk to different guys and professional associations and forums, and then so those are the things. So every day, and I remember I work for a company, every week we have new vendor coming in presenting the new tools in town or about architecture or whatever industry trends and emerging technologies and things like that. So I think those are the key points. I think I can say to get into the enterprise and achieving the enterprise architect role. Thank you.
100%. I'm glad you mentioned like having a mentor. I think we haven't really talked about it in this session, but I think I have a separate stream about how to find a mentor. And we talk about few things. So guys, if you're on this channel, you can scroll back and find this episode, because people always willing to help, because mentors learning a lot from being mentors as well. So don't be shy to reach out to people. And if you reach out to 10 people and 2 say yes, like doesn't matter that 8 say no, like like just don't think about it. Just reach out and ask people, and someone will tell yes and someone will help you. So it's just how the world works, I guess. Alex, and over to you. Anything to add to our comprehensive list of
like the others have said, I think knowing where to research is important. So if you know someone in your organization with a Gartner or Infotech account or some other resources, try and hunt that down. Or if they've got access to the architecture repository, hunt that down. And one of my golden rules for architecture is don't reinvent the wheel. Usually you'll find someone's done some work in a space, or if they haven't in your organization, someone either online or in one of those research firms or whatever, they've done a full analysis. So try and hunt that down before you start wasting your time, and build those relationships with the SMEs. Find out all the sort of key capabilities in your organization, find out what they do, and especially in the IT space, and chat with them and see how much you can pick their brain.
Definitely. Chan has a comment. I believe not only architects should have ownership and understanding of the business, but all individuals. I totally agree. I think that every organization will run so much better if only everyone had a better understanding of the business in general. I think it's a really good point, especially for small organization. I think like in a small organization, if you only focus on your task and not like trying to understand where the whole business is going, it's kind of like really hard to move faster. So I think I totally agree like that. We all
there is also a really good point there. There's also a really good point in that question for architects as well, which is that also if you are becoming an architect, if you're just starting your journey in architecture, keep in mind that this field is complex. It changes often. Give yourself a little bit of space, a little bit of flexibility that coming up to speed on some of this stuff might take time, and that a particular design or a particular solution you work on or build, it might not be perfect first time, because it is very complex work.
Yeah, 100%. We have a last question, so 30 seconds to answer this question, guys. From Rakesh, I feel like a difficult question. How is enterprise architecture practices within an organization is measured? Alex, do you have an answer?
Oh, we recently did that. So the architecture team have got a capability and maturity model with all the different domains in architecture, and they went around to all the different IT teams and the architects and measured it and produced one of those web diagrams. And some are, units are at level 1, some are at level 2, some are at level 3, and it was a comprehensive activity. But you might want to search the internet for some templates on architecture maturity models or something similar, and you'll be able to measure it that way.
Yeah, perfect. I'm cautious about the time. We have 5 minutes left of our stream. So the exciting part of the stream is the virtual giveaway, of course. Guys, I always say that these streams are a great way to network with people in the industry. So during, I'm going to do announcement for next week. And while I'm doing the announcement, our speakers going to choose one person from the chat, from the comments, who they're going to have a virtual coffee with, and maybe answer more questions on the topic. So next week, it's 7th of August. Oh my God, it's already August. So time flies. 7th of August, next Wednesday. The topic is, what does a business analyst do and how to become one? So obviously continue on the topic of exploring different titles and roles within IT industry. And I know you guys been enjoying it. So business analyst, the one we haven't talked about yet. So Mushmir, Jay, and Victoria are going to talk about it next week. And maybe, business analyst could be one of the steps to become enterprise architect as well. So make sure if you're not there yet, maybe join the next week's stream to learn more about business analysts. And okay, guys, have you chosen the winners for the virtual coffees? Reynaldo, have you choose someone who you're gonna have a coffee with?
Sorry, not yet. Yeah, I think I'm still looking at it. Thank you.
You're still looking at it. Alex, did you pick someone?
The Think a Bit Will's been very engaged on the chat, so I'll pick
him
or her.
Think a bit, Will. Please, not sure what's your name, but make sure to connect with me on LinkedIn so I can follow up on the chat and make sure connect you to Alex. So obviously you can see our names on the screen, so it's the same names on LinkedIn. So please connect. Jack, have you chosen the person?
There's a commenter by the name of Jay Chan that talks about being a data engineer that's wanting to get involved in architect. That's my background. I'm working in data and AI right at the moment as the architect. So more than happy to have a meeting with Jay Chan.
Perfect. Jay Chan, make sure to connect with me, so I'll follow up on the virtual coffee chat. Reynaldo, did we give you enough time to?
Yeah. I think probably it's James Castos. I was
James Castos,
he's looking at it. Yeah. He's having that comment, empathy and respect and all that. I think that will be good. Yep.
Perfect. James is a regular here. He's here almost every Wednesday. You need to have your fans. So it's good then you have someone who's rocking up every week. James, I'll make sure I'll connect you with Reynaldo so you can have a virtual coffee chat.
Yep.
And I'm Rush, thank you. Think a bit, Will. Just with Raj will make sure that you connect with Alex. So thank you so much again, everyone, for joining me. I know it's hour it's always so short, and you feel like there is so much more to talk about and so much to cover, but we're right in time today. Thank you again for joining me, and also for those who are really into enterprise architecture and want to listen to a bit of a different stream. I'm actually going to facilitate a live stream for our IT consultancy, and we're going to talk about modern enterprise architecture from rigid to responsive. That will be tomorrow, guys, at 4:30 p.m. Melbourne time. So if you would like to attend. So thank you everyone again. Thank you so much, Reynaldo, Alex, and Jack. Thank you so much for spending this hour with me, and I'll see everyone next Wednesday.
Thanks, Jana. Thank you everyone for your time.
Thank you.